Navy SEALs. You are about to begin one of the most demanding training programs ever designed by human beings. It is 3 in the morning. You are submerged to your chest in the Pacific Ocean, your body shaking uncontrollably. An instructor shouts directly into your ear while you question whether you will survive another 24 hours of what lies ahead. This is the opening chapter of a process engineered to systematically dismantle the human mind and reconstruct it according to an entirely different standard. One of the defining evaluations is known as surf torture. Candidates are ordered to lie at the waterline while freezing waves strike their bodies repeatedly throughout the night in high winds. Movement is prohibited. The objective is not physical endurance, it is the measurement of psychological collapse. And this represents only the beginning. These operators are specialists in combat across every conceivable environment, which is precisely why the path to qualification is designed to be nearly impossible. Because before an individual earns that distinguished insignia, they must first survive what many would consider a sanctioned form of human suffering. Everything begins with BUD/S, Basic Underwater Demolition/SEAL Training, a program exceeding 6 months in duration that bears a closer resemblance to institutionalized punishment than conventional military preparation. At the center of that program stands Hell Week, 5 consecutive days without sleep, 120 hours of running through sand carrying logs, performing repetitions in freezing mud, executing simulated combat scenarios, conducting nocturnal water insertions, navigating obstacle courses in open water, and sustaining extreme physical exertion under continuous supervision. The majority of candidates do not finish. Only approximately 25% complete the program. Many sustain stress fractures, hypothermic collapse, psychological breakdown, or complete physical failure. And yet, what follows selection is where the true complexity begins. SEALs operate in small units of 8 to 10 men. Their precision is such that they can insert from submerged submarines, fast rope from helicopters into active combat zones, or emerge directly from open water after extended dive operations. Their doctrine is the surgical strike. Infiltrate, neutralize the objective, and extract without trace, in silence and with speed. The unit was established in 1962 by direct order of President John F. Kennedy, who believed the United States Navy required its own dedicated unconventional warfare capability. Since that founding directive, these operators have executed some of the most sensitive and consequential missions in modern military history. They were responsible for the elimination of Osama bin Laden during Operation Neptune Spear in 2011, and for the rescue of Captain Richard Phillips from Somali pirates in the Indian Ocean. Today, approximately 2,500 active SEALs are distributed across 8 primary teams, deployed continuously across the globe. Behind that operational record, however, lies an uncomfortable truth. These individuals exist in a state of chronic, controlled violence in which the smallest miscalculation can result in death. The Navy SEALs are the most recognized special operations force within the United States Navy. But other units operate in complete institutional anonymity because the nature of their work extends considerably further. The Rangers. You're aboard an aircraft at altitude. In moments, you will exit that aircraft by parachute and descend directly into an active armed conflict. You carry no concealment technology and no specialized infiltration equipment. You have your training, your unit, and a clear directive. Be the first element on the ground and the last to withdraw. That is the operational reality of a Ranger. What you may not have anticipated is that the parachute insertion is, by comparison, the straightforward portion of the mission. The 75th Ranger Regiment is the most lethal light infantry unit within the United States Army. When military doctrine refers to them as light, the term describes the velocity at which they can materialize at an objective, engage with overwhelming force, and withdraw before dawn. Unlike the Navy SEALs, Rangers are not designed for anonymity. They are designed for destruction. They trace their lineage to 1756, though the modern regiment was formally constituted in 1974. Today, the regiment comprises 3 battalions, and approximately 3,000 operators who have demonstrated, repeatedly, a complete absence of hesitation in the face of mortal risk. The training pipeline is a precisely calibrated ordeal. Every candidate must complete Ranger School, a 61-day course conducted across the swamps of Georgia, during which sleep is severely restricted, caloric intake is minimal, and physical and psychological suffering is constant. The purpose is not merely to determine who can endure pain. It is to identify who can continue to lead, make sound decisions, and maintain unit cohesion while the human body systematically shuts down. But if the training pipeline is severe, the operational record is more so. Rangers are designed for large-scale direct action. They are the first force inserted when a military airfield must be seized, a fortified enemy position must be taken by assault, or a large-scale nocturnal offensive must be launched. They arrive not as a scalpel, but as a sustained force of destruction that overwhelms whatever stands in its path. They led the invasion of Grenada in 1983, conducted airborne operations into Panama in 1989, and, perhaps most notably, constituted the primary ground element during the Battle of Mogadishu in 1993, the operation that became the basis for the film Black Hawk Down. Since September 11, 2001, no special operations unit in the United States military has conducted more combat deployments. Each mission represents another statistical probability of non-return. And yet, within the broader architecture of special operations, the Rangers remain among the most conventional elements. What follows is considerably more complex. The Green Berets. If you are a Green Beret, your mission is not defined by visible force. If the operation is executed correctly, no one outside the chain of command will ever confirm that you were present. This is the most intellectually demanding, strategically ambiguous, and operationally nuanced unit in the United States Army. Established in 1952 with a highly specific mandate to train, organize, and lead foreign forces in the conduct of unconventional warfare, they are, in many respects, the senior practitioners within the special operations community. Every operator is qualified across 4 distinct disciplines: weapons, communications, medicine, and demolitions. They deploy in 12-man teams designated Operational Detachment Alpha, or ODA. Critically, each of those 12 operators is capable of functioning independently of the others. While selection demands considerably more than physical capacity or disciplinary compliance, it requires psychological stability under sustained ambiguity, demonstrated ability to acquire foreign languages, cultural fluency across diverse regional contexts, negotiation capability with local power structures, and the capacity to make decisions whose consequences may alter the political trajectory of entire nations. They have operated in Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and in other theaters that have never appeared in any congressional authorization. Approximately 7,000 Green Berets are currently active, distributed across 7 groups, each oriented toward a distinct geographic region of the world. There are a few films produced about their work. That is precisely the intended outcome. Their motto, De Oppresso Liber, which meaning to free the oppressed, carries a particular weight when one understands that liberation, in operational terms, frequently arrives years before any visible military action, and long before any public acknowledgement that anything occurred at all. When an operation concludes, they do not remain to assess the aftermath. They remove any identifying characteristics, secure their documentation, and disappear. The Marine Raiders. To be considered for this unit, candidates must already hold a position within the United States Marine Corps. There is no civilian entry pathway. The selection process spans 3 weeks of physical, psychological, and cognitive evaluation conducted in deliberately hostile conditions, with minimal structure and no explanatory framework provided. Only those who demonstrate sustained resilience without external validation advance. Recognition for endurance is not provided, it is simply expected. Approximately 2,400 Raiders are currently active, organized across 3 battalions and deployed in direct action, special reconnaissance, and foreign internal defense roles across the Philippines, Africa, and the Middle East, frequently in operational environments where conventional forces have already been unsuccessful. The unit's origins lie in the Second World War, when the original Marine Raiders conducted amphibious guerrilla operations across the Pacific Theater. The designation was formally reestablished in the modern era as an institutional acknowledgement of that legacy, now supported by contemporary equipment, real-time intelligence architecture, night vision technology, and tactical unmanned aerial systems. Notably, for a significant period, the Marine Corps itself resisted the reconstitution of a Raiders unit, concerned that its existence would diminish the perceived status of the broader Corps. Those reservations dissolved following the unit's initial operational deployments. Today, within joint training exercises, Marine units have been observed deliberately avoiding direct engagement with Raiders, not as a gesture of deference, but as a reflection of statistical outcomes. Without the public profile of the SEALs or the documented history of the Green Berets, the Raiders have nonetheless established themselves as one of the most operationally effective units produced by the American military in recent years. Air Force Special Tactics. If you are assigned to this unit, you are performing 3 simultaneous functions. You're engaging the enemy in direct combat, you're coordinating real-time airstrikes with precision, and you're providing advanced trauma care under active fire, all at the same time. What distinguishes special tactics operators from comparable forces is their fundamental role in the architecture of joint operations. They are not designed to initiate. They are designed to ensure that other units can complete their objectives with aerial fire support, medical extraction capability, and precision coordination. Certain operators insert ahead of all other elements, frequently alone, to prepare landing zones in denied territory and guide aircraft into areas where the margin for navigational error is measured in meters. Others are integrated into ground units, or are directing airstrikes from forward positions and designating targets in real time for aircraft operating above 10,000 meters. Their presence transforms a conventional ground engagement into a precision-guided operation. Others still are responsible for casualty extraction. They do not wait for evacuation assets. They exit rotary wing aircraft directly into active combat zones to extract fallen operators while engagements continue around them. The training pipeline is extensive, segmented, and extraordinarily selective. In certain specializations, it exceeds 2 years in duration, encompassing advanced trauma medicine, halo parachute operations, combat diving, and survival in denied environments. These operators have been present in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and additional theaters where the precise intersection of their capabilities was operationally essential. On multiple documented occasions, a single special tactics operator has managed the complete air traffic control function of an improvised forward operating base in the middle of an active desert engagement. While other forces advance on an objective, these operators ensure that an extraction route exists, that air coverage is maintained, and that individuals who are already out of the fight retain a viable chance of survival. Delta Force. You carry no unit insignia. You wear no identifiable uniform. You do not appear on any official roster. If you are killed in action, the details of your mission will be permanently classified. If you survive, you will not speak of what you did. You are an operator assigned to 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, and your institutional existence has never been formally confirmed by the United States government. The unit was founded in 1977 by Colonel Charles Beckwith, who had observed the operational structure of the British Special Air Service and subsequently proposed the creation of a functionally equivalent American capability. What he proposed was not another elite force appended to the existing military hierarchy. It was a structurally separate unit with independent recruitment, autonomous training systems, and direct access to operations authorized at the presidential level. Its official designation changes periodically and is not publicly disclosed. Within the unit, operators are identified by function rather than name or rank. But the selection process is conducted in comprehensive secrecy. There are no public announcements and no open application processes. Candidates are recruited directly from experienced operators across all military branches. Selection incorporates extended navigation through mountainous terrain without rest intervals, psychological evaluations designed to identify breaking points, and simulated mission scenarios in which the assessed variable is not physical performance, but cognitive function during total systemic failure. Most candidates do not complete the process. A significant proportion return with lasting physiological or psychological consequences. Operators work in teams of 4 to 6 and can be deployed globally on orders that bypass conventional command structures entirely. They were present in Mogadishu in 1993, operating in the Balkans, pursuing indicted war criminals, and served as the primary direct action element across 2 decades of operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. Their installation is located at Fort Liberty, North Carolina, within a facility that major commercial satellite mapping services have rendered deliberately obscured. They carry no distinguishing marks, seek no institutional recognition, and maintain no public presence of any kind. An operation exists in the record only if it succeeded. If it did not, officially, it never took place. The intelligence support activity. Within most military installations, personnel are unaware of this unit's existence. It was established in 1981 following the catastrophic failure of the Iranian hostage rescue operation, which made evident that Special Operations Forces required something that conventional military intelligence structures could not provide: real-time, operationally actionable intelligence without bureaucratic delay. Since its founding, the ISA has been present across every significant American conflict, but it appears in almost no official documentation. Operators from this unit enter foreign nations under constructed identities: journalists, non-governmental organization personnel, corporate representatives. They are fluent in multiple languages, capable of transitioning between identities according to regional requirements, and able to sustain immersive cover for extended periods among civilian populations. While doing so, they intercept communications, monitor the movement of high-value targets, and map operational environments in advance of any military deployment. Standard team composition is 2 to 4 individuals who precede all other elements into a designated area of operations, constructing the intelligence architecture upon which subsequent missions depend. It is an operation within an operation. When it concludes, operators do not return with the primary force. They return by separate means, or in some cases, they do not return at all. Unconfirmed reporting suggests that ISA personnel have simulated severe psychiatric conditions to gain access to institutional environments, and that others have operated as personal drivers for armed non-state actors, recording movement patterns using concealed recording equipment. The unit's installation is located at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, embedded within other official military facilities, physically concealed within the existing institutional landscape. The overwhelming majority of its operations will never be formally acknowledged. The Night Stalkers. There's a piece of institutional knowledge shared across the special operations community. If you hear a helicopter in the middle of the night, flying too low and moving too fast, it is almost certainly one of theirs. The 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment comprises the most technically proficient, most precisely trained, and most operationally demanding aviators in the entire United States military. Their function is unambiguous. Insert special operations teams into locations where no other aviation asset can operate and extract them alive. The unit was established in 1981 in direct response to the operational failure of Eagle Claw, the attempted Iranian hostage rescue in which inadequately prepared helicopters crashed in the desert, killing 8 American servicemen. From that failure, the Army constructed a regiment of aviators capable of flying at night in any meteorological conditions, at extremely low altitude, in active combat environments with absolute precision. They operate aircraft that have been modified with systems that, in many cases, are not publicly documented. Their training includes extended night vision goggle operations, low-altitude evasion maneuvers, navigation in GPS-denied environments, and landings in zones where the margin of error is measured in centimeters. They flew into Abbottabad. They inserted Delta Force into Mogadishu in 1993. They have extracted complete teams under direct enemy fire, navigating between structures without lighting and without the possibility of a second attempt. Civil affairs and psychological operations. This represents the most overlooked and simultaneously the most strategically consequential dimension of American military capability. Civil affairs specialists deploy into conflict zones to operate directly alongside civilian populations. They reconstruct essential infrastructure, negotiate with local governance structures, reestablish administrative systems, and neutralize conflicts before they reach a threshold requiring kinetic response. They function in small teams, frequently in areas where conventional military presence would generate instability or armed resistance. Among their assigned functions is the direct negotiation of enemy surrender. Psychological operations specialists design and execute information campaigns, conduct influence operations across digital platforms, establish radio broadcast infrastructure, and conduct aerial dissemination of printed materials, all oriented toward a single strategic objective: controlling the informational environment of a conflict. They identify and exploit cultural belief systems, religious divisions, and political grievances to erode enemy cohesion from within. Factual accuracy is secondary to narrative effectiveness. The target is not the enemy's body. It is the enemy's will to continue. Both units operate in civilian attire, embedded among non-governmental organizations, media institutions, and governmental bodies. In numerous cases, even allied forces are not fully informed of their activities. When their work is successful, the outcome is silent. An unanticipated capitulation, a militant organization that fragments without engagement, an adversary that simply stops fighting. There are no visible impacts, but the conflict ends regardless. The Central Intelligence Agency's Special Activities Center. The most consequential conflict the United States has prosecuted did not begin with an air campaign. It began when a small number of individuals landed in a country where their nation was not officially at war, and where, if anything had gone wrong, they would never have been acknowledged as having been there at all. That is the operational terrain of this component, the space that exists between conventional military authority and geopolitical reality, where intervention without formal acknowledgement is not only possible but essential. Many of its operators originate from Delta Force or the SEAL teams, but within this structure they no longer represent a visible national flag. They represent a strategic intent that, regardless of outcome, will never be publicly confirmed. That distinction defines everything. Their primary function is to alter the trajectory of conflicts before the international community understands that those conflicts have formally begun. They assume missions that the executive branch requires the ability to disavow completely, operating under distinct parameters and possessing one capability that no conventional military unit can claim: plausible deniability. If the mission fails, there was no deployment. If it succeeds, it officially did not occur. In the weeks following September 11th, 2001, while the global public was still processing the scale of what had happened, these operators were already inside Afghanistan. Not with armored formations or infantry columns, with financial resources, satellite communications equipment, and a classified directive. Their assignment was to recruit, negotiate with, and arm indigenous militia networks to fracture the Taliban regime from within. By the time the formal air campaign commenced several weeks later, the strategic architecture had already been constructed. Almost no one understood who had positioned the first pieces on the board. Their operators may insert as diplomatic personnel, as private sector representatives, or as international development workers. They do not require physical occupation of territory if they can fragment it politically. They do not require the conquest of a nation if they can render it ungovernable. And unlike conventional special operations forces, this component functions as a direct strategic instrument of executive authority. Where Delta captures, they negotiate. Where the SEALs execute, they have already prepared the conditions. And where the military eventually intervenes visibly, they have frequently been operating in the shadows for months or years in advance. Their existence is formally acknowledged. Their operations almost never are. They do not appear at press briefings. They do not grant interviews. They do not publish accounts of their service. The majority of their operations will remain classified for decades. Because when a government falls without a formal invasion, or when a conflict changes direction without any publicly satisfying explanation, it is entirely possible that the most silent component of the American national security apparatus has already passed through. And while every other special operations element awaits deployment orders, they are already inside.